One morning in Mapletown, a young girl named Mart was on her way to the market when she noticed something strange. The normally bustling town square was silent. The birds had stopped tweeting, the bees in the flower patches had stopped buzzing, and even the leaves hanging from the trees seemed to have paused their gentle swaying. And it was all because of the giant clock tower in the middle of town. Its hands, which usually ticked away the minutes so carelessly, had come to a standstill. As Mart stood there scratching her head, two friends of hers, Emma the baker and Luna the librarian, also arrived at the square. All three of them noticed that although the clock had stopped moving, its hands were perfectly still. Not a single leaf or petal or bird was falling either. It was as if time itself had stopped flowing. "This is incredible," whispered Emma, her eyes wide with wonder. "What do you think happened, Luna?" Just then, a tiny voice piped up from inside the clock tower. "If you want to know what happened, then solve my riddles 3 and set me free. Then time will start to flow once more." Startled, the friends looked around, but they couldn't see anyone. Confused, Mart walked up to the clock and peered inside its face. There, perched on one of the cogs, was a little fairy no bigger than Mart's thumb. Her wings, which should have been fluttering about her like a hummingbird, were stuck fast, and her magic wand lay abandoned on the ground below. "You're a time fairy," gasped Luna, rushing over to help her. "How did you get trapped like this?" The fairy sighed. "That's a long story," she said. "But to make a very long story short, I was flying past here one day when suddenly this horrible clock swallowed me whole. Now my magic is fading fast, and if I don't get out of here soon, I'll be trapped forever." She looked up at the faces of her rescuers and pleaded, "Please, you have to help me, but I warn you, if you don't solve my riddles correctly, then you won't free me, and time will stop forever." Mart, Emma, and Luna looked at each other. They had never worked together before, but they knew that if they didn't try to help the fairy, then everything they knew and loved would cease to exist. So they nodded their heads and said, "Okay, ask us your riddles." The fairy smiled, and although her body was small, her voice boomed throughout the square. "Then let the games begin," she said. "Your first clue is this: I have cities, but no houses. I have mountains, but no trees. I have water, but no fish. What am I?" Mart pondered this for a moment. She said at last. "Could it be a painting or a map?" "Correct," said the fairy. "And for your prize, here is one of my feathers. Keep it safe, for it will help you later." The feather glowed warmly in Mart's hands, and the fairy flew off to perch on the next gear. "Now then, on to riddle no. 2, she said. I always come but never arrive. I can be planned but never kept. I can be bought but never owned. What am I?" Emma thought hard. She said finally. "Could it be tomorrow?" "That's right," the fairy exclaimed. "You're getting closer to solving my riddles. Here's another of my feathers." This one glowed brightly with magical energy. "But hurry," the fairy warned. "You have to find the answer to my final riddle or my magic will fade completely." "We're trying," said Luna, who had been quiet up until now. "I have keys, but no locks to open. I have space, but no room to enter. You can enter, but can't go outside. What am I?" The fairy smiled. "That's a good one, and you got it in one. Well done." She dropped her final feather, which glowed with all the colors of the rainbow. "Here you go. Now use my feathers wisely, and may they bring you luck." With that, she disappeared, leaving behind only the faint scent of honeysuckle. The three friends looked at the feathers in their hands. Although the fairy had vanished, they could feel her presence all around them. Suddenly, Mart had an idea. She remembered the fairy's warning that time would stop forever if they didn't solve all 3 riddles. But the fairy hadn't said anything about how they needed to use these feathers. Perhaps the feathers themselves held some kind of magic. Working together, the 3 friends arranged the feathers in the shape of a triangle. As they did, the feathers began to glow brightly, and the air shimmered around them. The friends watched in amazement as the clock's hands started moving once more, and with that, life returned to normal. The birds began tweeting, the leaves rustling in the trees, and the flowers swaying gently in the breeze. As Mart, Emma, and Luna looked up at the clock tower, they knew that even though their adventure was over, their friendship had only just begun.